What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be diving into all those boxes on the floor that's been compiling up. We're going to be opening them up one by one so we can modify them, and once we finish all of that, we got to send all of it to the homie KELLYBUILT so he can finalize my race engine. It's currently 5:22 right now. I've been driving around all day getting parts, finding material, and just buying food. We are back here in the garage now, and I do have the last piece to the puzzle right here from Honda. I went to go pick it up. We'll explain as we go all these little parts we're going to be showing you guys in today's video. I didn't find the square tubing that I wanted for the rear differential crossbar. I'm just going to end up using round tubing instead because I've used the same bar in my red all-wheel drive CRX when I converted it in 2018, and when I finally took it out of the car, it was actually pretty straight. So I'm going to use the same bar this time around just to kind of keep it budget friendly. And I did buy some flat stock that we're going to be using for different plating underneath the car, but we're not going to be diving into the differential in today's video. Before I close the garage, I need to dive into the shelves over there so I can pull out my spare K20A2 short block with the crank in it, because we're going to be needing it for mock-up. My sleep schedule is so messed up, it's hard to sleep early, and by the time I normally get up now, with the sun going down super early, I only get about 3 or 4 hours of sunlight. But you know, at the end of the day, we made the space in the garage so we can still work in the garage. So right here we need to grab, I believe, oh, it looks like the one in the bottom is the one that has the crank, so I need to pull all this stuff out right here so I can get to that. All right, so we got my K20A2 short block here on the table, and I'm gonna pop this aluminum oil pan off because we need to put a oil pump on for some of the mock-ups. This bottom end, we're going to be doing an OEM rebuild soon once I get all the rings and bearings and free up an engine stand. I want to do an OEM rebuild with a cylinder head just to have a 0-mile K20A2 long block on standby. So this is one of my spare K20 oil pumps that I kind of collected for, you know, future builds. And we're just going to bolt it on for right now. Okay, oil pump is on. I don't think I have a windage tray. The spare one that I had through a rod, and it punched a hole through the pan, so I've already discarded that. But let's go ahead and dive into these packages right here. First box right here. PLM is out of stock. Blocks is also out of stock, and the next person I found on eBay is Jack Spania, and this right here is an oil baffle for the K20/K24 or any K series, as long as you have the K20 oil pump. And I have the same one, or I have PLM, but they're all the same stuff. I have PLM in the KRX for the last 3 years, and it has worked beautiful. So I figured, because we're going to be switching the oil pan on the race motor, because it has that giant freaking Moroso style oil pan that hangs really low, I kind of don't want to risk like smacking that pan when I'm driving the car. So I'm switching back to an OEM style pan, and because the OEM style doesn't have internal baffle, we're going to be using this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I lost my razor blade. Oh no. Oh no. Let me just grab my spare one here. Be sure to cut away from yourself, not towards yourself. So this right here is a bolt-in style baffle for the K series engine, and I'm hoping, oh man, this is freaking aluminum. The website is so confusing. It says aluminum, but then it says steel, and the PLM version is a steel setup because I was able to weld it. Now I can't weld aluminum, obviously, and the reason why I am unboxing this instead of setting it directly in the box to my builder is because these guys are riveted together, and I usually just weld all the pieces together so that way you know, the rivets don't fail and this thing falls apart inside the engine itself. So I pulled it out because I'm gonna test fit it with the oil pan and then see if it clears perfectly, and if it does, all I got to do is weld it. If it doesn't clear, I do have to trim it. I remember the PLM unit, I had to trim off like the corner or something because it was actually interfering from closing the oil pan all the way. So let's go ahead and test fit this real quick with the provided hardware. I also just noticed that the hardware does not come with any studs whatsoever. It's supposed to come with studs because you're using spacers, and obviously they provided nuts, right? Which is supposed to be bolted onto a stud. So I'm not sure why Jack Spanier doesn't come with it. Probably not gonna buy from them again. The windage tray is only like a millimeter or so thick, so I'm not worried about it, like, you know, being on here before the baffle. I am gonna find some longer 10mm bolts just to use for right now since we don't have studs. This curve right here is the oil pump side. Honestly, guys, I'm not very fond of the aluminum material for the baffle. It'll work. It was $100. I'm gonna have to use it, but it is what it is. Next thing up here is a new oil pan. Now, I'm gonna admit this is from Amazon, and I read the reviews. It says it fits really well. There were people who provided some pictures, and we're gonna be replacing that giant oil pan that's on the engine currently at KELLYBUILT, and that's the reason why we're making this video, because I'm gonna test it to make sure it fits flush and also make sure it clears the Jack Spanier baffles. I did want to buy the Unit 2 oil pan that has the built-in baffle, but you know, it's a little expensive for the pocket as of right now, and I'm trying to save some money where I can. So this oil pan was like $30 on Amazon, so let's see how well it fits. If you guys don't know, the K20A2 Type S comes with an aluminum oil pan, which you guys saw I took off earlier. I believe the A3 and the 24s come with a steel pan. So we're switching over to a steel pan, obviously. And it looks just like the OEM unit. So let's go ahead and test fit it, man. This thing looks good, I'm not gonna lie. It looks really good. Here we go, Amazon oil pan. Okay, so it looks like it interferes on the baffle in the same spot. So if you guys look at the oil pan, it is a little crooked, and if you look on this side, it is flush, and you can see one of the bolt holes right there. This side is kicked super far out because something is interfering. And by the way it sounds, it's like right here. So let me see. See if we get a scratch mark. Oh yeah, you can see it right there. Right there is a little scratch mark. That is where it's interfering, and by the looks of it, it looks like somewhere here is hitting. Oh, you can see the black mark right there. So it looks like it's hitting this lip right here. Try it one more time. Yeah, it's like right here. If I pull it off, yeah, it's definitely that corner right there. So let me see if I can try to bend that without cutting it to see if it'll clear that corner. Okay, so I had to modify this thing like 2 or 3 times. I had to cut this corner just a little bit more, and hopefully this is the last test fit. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Already, we have plenty of movement to kind of shimmy around, but all the holes line up to the Amazon oil pan, and I am super stoked about that. Give you guys that look real quick. All the 10 mil holes for the oil pan is lined up to the girdle, and we don't have the timing cover on, but I don't doubt that it'll fit, right? And right now, because my TIG machine is set up for stainless welding, what we're gonna do before the baffle is we're gonna bung the oil pan, since this one doesn't have a bung on it, which I believe mine is on the back side. So because I'm switching oil pan, we need to put a bung on here. I should have a steel bung in here somewhere. Is this steel? Yep, we have 2 steel bungs. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my marking on the pan. I gotta look at some pictures on my phone and then drill out the hole to weld the bung, and then we'll do the baffle. You guys wanna know a little fun fact? Little dude has been exploring the inside of the house and annoying the hell out of Tinkerbell. So she found a new spot here in the garage. Right there. You over here hiding, huh, Tinkerbell? Huh? You hiding? Okay, well, I'll just leave you alone. I have an AN cap on the -10 bung, just so that I can push the bung as high as possible, but still have room to tighten down the return line. So this is the general area according to the pictures. Whew, that rung my ears. Alright guys, so we have the -10 steel bung welded onto the oil pan. I did pulse weld it just because the lip of the bung was thick, and I was able to pulse weld it without using any filler, and this thing turned out freaking awesome. It didn't alter the paint too much on the outside, so I'm gonna leave that be. I'm not gonna throw any paint on it. And one more thing I wanna do with the oil pan, if I can find it, I'm not sure where it's at, but I have a brand new magnetic oil drain plug that I want to throw on here before I send it out. It's either in one of those boxes or it's in one of my bigger tote over there, but I'll find it tomorrow. But as far as the pan goes, it is done. So let's go ahead and pop the baffle off and get that all welded up. Got the baffle all welded up. You can see this piece is attached by that weld and that weld. This side over there, right here. And then on the bottom side, or top side, if you will, we have this all fuse welded together, because this is where we cut to clear the oil pan. And we also welded on the inside. And then this one on the outside, 3 different spots. This entire baffle is tied in together. And the only thing I just gotta worry about is the rivets not coming apart, because the baffle is not gonna come apart, but if the rivet does, the rivet's gonna be in the oil pan. And even if the rivet came off, it's not gonna go through the oil pump, only because it has a mesh screen on the inside and the rivet is too big to travel through. If you guys look, a little mesh screen on the inside right there. Yeah, so baffle is done, pan is done. What's next? fatso. Next day here, guys. Last night I wanted to test fit the Amazon lower billet timing chain guide, this piece right here, but I needed a OEM lower plastic guide first, but I couldn't get to the engine compartment. So garage is open. I did try to go find one, but apparently I don't have one. You need the plastic OEM guide before this piece here to make sure the alignment is correct, to make sure that this doesn't interfere with the timing chain itself. I just want to show you guys anyways where this thing is supposed to go. I was going to get a DC version of this, but after asking around and asking people for their opinion, these Amazon ones work exactly the same and they're a little bit cheaper. So this chain guide goes on the plastic guide that goes right here for the tension of the oil pump chain, and it bolts into the factory holes right here. Something like that. It's supposed to stick out a little further because there's supposed to be a guide underneath it, but I want to make sure that at least the holes are the same and my engine builder is not going to have any issues trying to install it. I feel like this lower billet timing chain guide is beneficial if you're running the two-piece timing cover, because what this does is it helps the chain sit in place when you set the engine to TDC, when you're removing the timing chain, if you're doing like head gasket swap or something with the engine in the car. Because if you don't have the two-piece timing cover, you're going to entirely remove it anyways, and you know, when the cover is completely off, obviously you can do the timing much easier. But if you have the two-piece, this keeps the chain in place with the bottom half of the timing chain cover still in place instead of removing it all entirely, if that makes sense. So it looks like the holes line up perfectly. It's supposed to sit out a little bit. Can't really test to see if it interferes with the chain or not because there's obviously nothing in place. But this is one of the things that we're going to be putting into the engine just because. And I'm going to go ahead and put this back into the bag, put it in this box right here. Next package right here is from Track Tough. If you guys don't know Track Tough, check out his website. He has a lot of freaking awesome billet stuff for K series and occasionally other series as well too. Inside here, we have a 40-degree VTC pin. So this little pin right here limits your 50-degree VTC to 40 degrees only. Track Tough does also have different size pins for like if you want to do 35 or 25 or something like that. Check out their website. But I do have drag hotel 3.2 cams in my built motor, and the website for the drag hotels says to pin the VTC to 35, but we're just gonna do 40 just to kind of give a little bit more. I'm not worried about the cams opening up the valves like big enough to touch the pistons because I am using flat face and the piston itself are flat tops. So realistically, I don't need to pin the 50-degree, but this is kind of like an insurance to make sure we don't go over and open the valves more than it needs to and potentially touch the pistons. So we're going to be installing this. I do have an extra VTC gear on my spare VTEC head. All right, guys, so 50-degree VTC. This one is stamped PND because it came off of 0206 RSX. The one that says RBC comes on the K20Z3, which is the 8th gen Civics, but RSX come with 50-degree RSX Type S and the base model, in case you guys didn't know. So the Track Tough kit comes with a sticker, blue Loctite, a pin of your choice, mine's a 40, and he provides the T30 Torx bit as well too. So that's freaking awesome. I'm just gonna use mine, which is on the impact. Now, when you guys take off all 4 of these bolts, make sure you keep the plate flat because there is a spring and a plunger on the inside. There is some tension on here. You can kind of see it kind of like springing up by itself, right? Bolt out. So here's the plunger, which actually came off with the plate because I still have oil in here. It's supposed to sit on top of the spring, which is right here in the gear itself. There's a little spacer right here on the inside. There we go. We just pop this pin out right here. That'll give us the motion, right? So this gear right here, this actuator, this is on 0. This is 50 degree. We're gonna be putting the pin in between here. That's gonna limit this from going full 50 and only give us to the range that we pinned it to, if that makes sense. So I had to do some more reading, some more research, and I found a forum of somebody explaining the free-floating pin that you put into the chamber, right? So this is my 40 degree VTC pin, and I was a little confused on how it's supposed to sit in there, right? So this is at 0 degrees right now, all the way to the left, and then this is 50 degrees all the way to the right. We're gonna limit it, and the pin just sits in the chamber right here. And I called the homie Nomis to confirm this, and he says it literally just sits in there. The forum literally says drop it like it's hot, and it sits up in that corner. When the car turns on, this thing gets filled with oil, and the pressure is gonna keep it sitting there. It's weird that a lot of people install this pin on YouTube with no like voiceover or anything explaining that the pin literally just sits there. There's no groove for it to sit on or anything, and I was confused about that. But like I said, on the forums, here's a photo right here. There's a pin literally just sitting right there, right? So I guess we're just gonna drop the pin in just like that. When the car turns on, oil pressure will set it into place. It doesn't matter if it's on the top or if it sits on the bottom. When the VTC works, it's gonna push that pin and limit you to the size of that, which is 40 for me. So I guess that's just the way it's going to work, right there in the corner. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set this back to 0 degrees, put the little spacer thingamabob, which locks all of it together. Then we're gonna put the spring and the plunger back in. This is a specific pattern, so there's no wrong way to install this. Blue Loctite. I'm gonna drive it down, but we're gonna torque it down to 7 foot-pounds. We're gonna be using this brand new torque wrench from the Critical 3/8. So we're gonna go over torquing, and hopefully we're able to feel 7 pounds. Let's go ahead and set this to, this is foot-pounds, Newton meters on the other side. Alrighty, 7 foot-pounds. Track Tough 40 degree limiting pin installed in a 50 degree VTC. Clean this thing up a little bit and pack it up. So the last thing we need to do before we send out this package to the homie Chris Built to finish up my race motor is we need to modify this lower gear for a new woodruff key. This smaller gear right here drives the timing chain, the bigger one drives the oil pump, and this thing sits on the crankshaft using this dowel pin to drive it. And what I've heard, what I've seen, what I've read is when you start making a lot of power, this thing tends to shear. I don't know how often it happens, but I know it happens, and there's a reason why Drag Cartel sells the modified gear. Now, I'm not being cheap about buying the Drag Cartel modified gear, which already comes machined for the woodruff key. It's just my pocket can't afford it right now, so I figured I just try to modify it myself. I have 2 of these gears to try to make it fit a woodruff key, but if it doesn't work out, I can just buy the gear. It's not a problem. But we're gonna try to modify this for the woodruff key, which is the last thing we picked up from Honda right here. A lot of people don't show the part number, and I'm gonna give that to you guys right there. 9704-PT0-000. This is the woodruff key that you're gonna need for the modified gear. And in the case of the modified gear, you have to get the modified cam trigger as well too. Now the OEM one, it's built in right there, right? That goes onto the crankshaft. And when you run the modified gear with the longer woodruff key, this is actually inverted the opposite way. And in the case of that, I ended up going with the Alamazar Dela Cruz modified trigger. And this is actually a different teeth design. This is a 24-1, or I believe it's 24-2 or 24. I'll show you to you guys. I bought this from Speed Factory, and the reason for that is because I am running fuel tech, and this is going to help the startup of the engine on the fuel tech with also the modified phaser on the camshaft itself. So this is the 24-2, recommended to run by the homie Nomis, because, you know, he is a fuel tech certified. And funny enough, it comes with its own woodruff key. That's pretty cool. I mean, this was less than 10 bucks. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we have an extra one, but we have the woodruff key, and you can see the trigger itself is already modified for a woodruff instead of the OEM style where it's actually built in, right? So we're gonna have to align this on the crankshaft, mark this out, and honestly, I didn't even think this through. I don't even know how I'm gonna cut this, because that is not a lot of space to do so. But like I said, we're gonna attempt it, and if it works, cool. If it doesn't work, we'll just buy the drag cartel gear itself. And one of the reasons why I kind of refrain from buying the drag cartel kit is because it already comes with one of these that's modified, which I don't need from them because I need the Dela Cruz one. So I thought I was gonna try to save some money there, but you know, I guess we'll figure it out in just a moment. Let me figure all this out real quick. Just want to show you guys really quickly. So on the crankshaft itself, you see there's a little groove for a woodruff key, and then if you look right here, there's a little like indentation for the little dowel that's on the gear right here. So that goes on, it should lock into place like that. And then the key right here is supposed to go all the way through the gear, right? And then the cam trigger sits in front of that. It's supposed to go on something like this. The woodruff key is not flush on there right now, but you kind of get the idea. So what I need to do is I need to mark out where this woodruff lands so I can find a way to cut into it. All right, guys, 30 minutes in, we are almost there. We got the depth, but we need to sharpen the edge because the woodruff key is a square. So that's gonna be a little tricky, but we're making progress. We're making progress. This thing, super clutch. Guys, I'm gonna be dead ass with y'all. It's been about 3 hours since I started the process of cutting the lower time gear to fit the new woodruff key. And this was a little tricky, man. It was a lot easier when I processed it in my head, but it is definitely time consuming because you don't want to cut bigger than the woodruff key because then it'll be loose. You know what I mean? You want to be nice and tight, although with the dowel pin into the crankshaft, it's already nice and tight. Cutting the new hole for the lower gear has to be like super precise, right? Because if you cut it too far off to the left or to the right, the woodruff key won't go through. So not having the right carbide bit was a little tricky because I don't want to cut too big starting the first cut into the groove. But I did get most of it off with the carbide, and then I started using drill bits to try to like shave down. I did try to use my bench drill, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like it wasn't fast enough to cut. All it did was just try to snag and throw the gear around. But I did use some drill bits, and surprisingly, the broken pieces worked a lot better than the full size. This is a full size. I was trying to use the edge to cut into the material. Now, cutting steel is hard when it's not on like a mill or whatever, but For some reason, the broken bit cut a lot easier than the full-size bit. I don't know if it's just a sharper edge of the broken bit, but it ate it up really well to make that sharp corner for the root rough key. And with a combination of like the file, I had to modify this file. You see, I chopped it right there. Modified the file to go in between to shave it down. Combination of the Sawzall blade to cut that corner a little bit more. And after almost about 3 freaking hours, we got it to all work. It's a little ghetto, but you can't knock it if it works. It ain't stupid if it works, right? So I want to show you guys really quickly the setup right here. Let me get you guys up on the chair here. So this right here is the lower timing gear, and you guys can see we cut it right there for the wood rough key. And man, what a process this was, especially because I had to go all the way through. I didn't think it needs to go all the way through because the wood rough stops like halfway through, but just to cut all the way through to make it nice and straight and to be able to cut those edges without having to stop halfway. But we have it cut out right here, just a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but it doesn't move. So I'm going to show you guys. This right here goes into the slot on the crank that locks it in place, right? Because that's what factory, it relies on, that little dowel pin to rotate this gear to run the pump and the timing chain. So right there we have it locked into place. And then I do have the OEM one here, but Dela Cruz has his own, and I had to shave this a little bit on the corner. It's hard to see, but I shaved the corner a little bit because I wasn't sure how far it was supposed to go in, and I did see some scuffing on the crank, the little journal here, so I kind of shaved it, right? And it's not going to affect it at all, but you can see here it goes into the crank. I'm gonna use my little hammer because the aftermarket wood rough is pretty snugged. So I'm gonna tap it down, tap it in. And I'm not gonna like force it to go all the way in, because when I put the crank pulley on, it's gonna flush it in there. So I'm not like trying to smack on it to mushroom it out or anything. There we go. And then we have the Dela Cruz crank trigger, and this goes on. What's weird is that in this crank trigger, there's like 2 little ass lips that was like preventing me from putting this on, so I had to shave it down just a little bit. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be there, but I'm able to put it on by hand and take it off by hand, but it's still being super snug. So let me shimmy this all the way down. There we go. The wood rough key sticks off the crank a little bit, but that's perfectly fine because once the crank pulley goes on, it actually sits flush with it, so it kind of like locks it in place, like it pressures the wood rough key to be where it needs to be and not further than it needs to be, if that makes any sense. So we have a K20 PRB crank pulley that we're going to use, and again, the aftermarket wood rough key, it's really snugged, so you kind of have to snug the crank pulley onto it, but I'm able to just push it in and out by hand, so that's freaking good. You hear that click. And let me show you guys this really quickly, what I was talking about, the wood rough key. You see how it's like super flushed on the surface of the crank pulley? That's perfect. And I'm gonna shoot the bolt down just to show you guys that this entire shebang is gonna work out perfectly. Crank bolt, I'm gonna shoot it with the gun on 1 UGA because 1 UGA is like almost like 80 plus foot-pounds. Do one more. And there you guys have it, the modified timing gear with the extended wood rough key and the Dela Cruz 24-2 cam trigger, crank pulley, crank bolt shot down. Ooh, this thing's gonna be freaking awesome. My new built motor is gonna have the ATI damper that my builder bought from Speed Factory, and I hope it doesn't have any issues trying to fit it over the wood rough key, but you know, Chris, if he needs to do what he needs to do, he's gonna do what he needs to do. Right? So anyways, guys, the modification is done. Would I do it again for myself? Probably. For anybody else, not really. I prefer you guys to just buy the damn kit. I just don't have enough money to buy it coming to the end of my built engine setup. So you know, we're always going to try to save money where we can. And if I can modify it, I'm going to modify it, and we did just that. You guys see it there, works perfectly. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and take this thing back apart, clean it all up, wrap it up, pack up the package, clean all my mess that I made in the garage here tonight, and we're gonna cap out this video. All right, guys, so we have everything all cleaned up from my welding table, my workbench, and the table with the K20 short block on it. Amazon pulled through, and they delivered me my e-scooter. So I bought an e-scooter just because, you know, we've been to the track a couple of times this year, and I've been with my boys. Sometimes we park far, and everybody's either got a pit bike, an e-bike, or e-scooter, and my ass is walking hella far, and it gets really tiring. So I decided, even though we only got one event left this year, I decided to buy myself an e-scooter just to simplify, you know, being a pit crew and a racer between the pits and the lanes. And this is gonna make it easier on my foot, especially because I still have pain in my left foot from the accident a couple of years ago, and I feel like this is gonna linger with me like for the rest of my life. Definitely a wake-up call to get a scooter from the last event we attend, which was Race Wars in Bakersfield, and I'm going to assemble this soon, get it up on the charger, and get it all set up. This is the same one that the homie Brian has, and I've ridden his scooter as well too, and it works really well for big boys like us. This is meant for adults and bigger dudes like me, and we're gonna find out soon how well it works, because, you know, some of the reviews were some of the reviews were freaking great, and, you know, sometimes it's a hit or miss when you buy stuff from Amazon. As far as everything in this video goes, all the mods we had to do to some of the parts that we need to ship out to the homie Chris, it's in the box right there, and I need to get packing paper and then tape it all up and then ship it out in 2 days, and because the PO box will open tomorrow. And hopefully we can get all that over to him as soon as possible, so that way he can button up my engine. The built K20 has been gone for a little while now, to be honest with you guys, but I get it though. I don't really need it right now, and my engine builder has life priority, so it's about to approach a year. It's about to approach a year, but regardless of the fact, like I said, I don't need it right now because I still need to finish the rest of the fuel tech setup. I still need to get my dog box transmission, and then the built motor goes in. Then we try to shoot for more power. But for right now, I just wanted to get it out of his way, and hopefully we get it here back towards the end of November. But I'm stoked. I'm stoked. I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of this progress update on some of the parts we're going to be using on my new built motor coming back here soon. If you guys did, be sure to leave a thumbs up. Tomorrow's the Bay Area ham meet, and if you guys don't know, the ham meet gets cracking, and fortunate for me, it's local tomorrow for me, and I'm probably going to take the blue all-wheel drive car out just to stretch some legs because it's been a little bit, and I do need to feel some boost back in my life. So if you guys want to stick around for the ham meet next video for you guys, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.